Monster's really good if you're into mystery, thriller.
Yeah.
And the problem with me, too, is anytime you ask me for a recommendation, aside from Horimiya, I'm going to say something dark because I love dark, sad stories that just like kind of leave you with like existential dread.
Yeah.
That's my thing. So if you're like, oh, what's a good manga? I'm going to be like, this, and it'll just like leave you on the floor. I like cosplaying Casca. I love cosplaying Nico Robin. Anytime I do any Nico Robin outfit, that's just when I feel the most confident in cosplay, I think. This, and it'll just like leave you on the floor.
So one thing we'd like to do is icebreakers. What's something that most people don't know about you that you'd like to share on the podcast today?
I don't know. I feel like I'm one of those people who's very open. I like to talk about every little thing that I do. I guess that I paint in my spare time. I feel like that's the one thing I don't really put on social media, that I like to paint to relax.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Is it painting anime or just painting environmental? More
like environmental landscape sort of thing. Just relaxation, like Bob Ross type. Follow the tutorial. Yeah, on YouTube.
You don't do the quiet voice as well when you paint as well. And his voice is quite soothing, isn't it? when he paints.
Very relaxing.
Yeah, very relaxing. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. I wish I could paint, but my artistic skills stop at singing, so that's it.
I mean, I'm not great either. It's just something that you kind of do.
All right, so let's start with content creation, because that's one thing that we like to do on this podcast is really uncover the journey of what a creator goes through in terms of how they started their channel, or be Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. And one thing that we like to get is just kind of like a view of how you started. What was your journey in terms of becoming a content creator? Why did you start?
So I, like many others in the anime manga niche, I decided to start during the pandemic when everyone was on lockdown. I think it was slightly afterwards, around fall of 2020, is when I had already been watching anime again. I had been kind of into manga, and I was like, I see all these TikToks popping up, and I really want to do that because it seems fun, and I don't have anything else to do with my time because we're in the pandemic. Yeah. So I decided to go out manga shopping one day, and I posted it on TikTok, and it kind of just took off from there, where it seemed like everyone was really interested in manga. So I kept talking about it, kept sharing it with people. I think what really got me hooked onto TikTok, though, aside from manga, was Hunter x Hunter, because I was in full Hunter x Hunter brain rot and had nobody to talk about it with. And I saw other people post, and I was like, all right, this is my chance. I'm going to target these people. I'm going to get them invested. I'm going to do like those little skits and stuff. So yeah, it just kind of blossomed from there.
Yeah, no, Hunter x Hunter is... It's not many people's, like, I guess... Was that your beginner anime, or was it just one thing that got you into?
It was my resurgence, I'd call it. Because I'd been into anime since I was a child. Like, with Sailor Moon, Magical Doremi, a lot of magical girl stuff, Fruits Basket, that sort of thing. But then Hunter x Hunter was the first one that I really invested in 2020. And that's what got me hooked into wanting to go off to the shonen seinen side of anime, which I hadn't explored before.
Fair play. Okay, so you started from the like magical girl kind of world, Sailor Moon, card captors, shoujo, all that stuff. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's cool. And so you started that, then you went into content creation, and then I guess I saw your first post. You just kind of built because I was just doing my research.
Yeah.
But one thing that was clearly evident was your love for manga. So did you start manga first, then anime, or was it anime first, then you kind of like got into manga?
It was actually anime first, which is interesting because I don't talk much about anime on my socials, I think. Like when it comes to Instagram, TikTok, I mostly talk about manga, but it was anime. And then I decided to get into reading a bit as I didn't have much to do during the pandemic. And I like collecting physical things, as everyone can tell. So I was like, oh, here's a physical thing I can collect and like read along the way.
Okay. What was your first manga you read?
Full Moon no Saga Shite. That's a shoujo as well. And it's kind of like, I compare it to Fruits Basket a lot. because it's similar in that nature where it has Shinigami, but it has these little characters that turn into animals, and there's a curse involved. There's tragic, but it's also a romance. It's a really good story.
Yeah, I've just been getting into romance anime this year because I wanted to broaden my horizons beyond just the shonen, seinen category, as it were. So I watched Toradora, I think last year. That was fun. That was nice. I watched Clannad. I hated that. I'm sorry. I know people are going to kill me.
I haven't even seen that one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm behind. They're going to hate me for a different reason.
No, that's fine. But watched that one. My co-host loved it, but yeah, for me, it wasn't the one. But another person recommended Kaguya-sama Love's War.
Oh, that's really good too.
Yeah, that was really good. I binge watched that. That was really good. So trying to find more romance anime, so mangas as it were. So if you do have any good recommendations, please do let me know.
Have you seen Horimiya yet?
No, I have not.
Horimiya is one of my favorite ones, just because it's not one of those romance stories where they take forever to get into a relationship. They're in a relationship kind of off the bat, and it's more of like a comedy slice of life. I really like it.
Yeah, I love comedy. Because Kaguya-sama had that comedy element to it as well. Okay. Horimiya. Horimiya. Okay.
Yeah.
So going back to content creation, what's like one of your favorite things about being a content creator? And then conversely, what's worst thing about being a content creator? So let's start with the good before we go to the bad.
Okay. My favorite thing about being a content creator is definitely the sense of community, because I feel like I've connected with so many online friends that have then shifted into real friends, just because I notice a lot of manga collectors live in my area, this New England, Massachusetts type area, down from Massachusetts to New York. So I see them probably once a month or so. We go out shopping and everything. So that's been nice. And then I also just, in general, like talking to the community and getting to, it's kind of like having your own book club in a way, where you're getting to share your thoughts with the people who, like, for example, in your real life, you might not know so many people to talk about anime and manga with. Facts. So definitely that's what I enjoy the most.
And then what don't you enjoy about content creating?
I guess any form of harassment, really. Other creators have talked about this too a bit, but parasocial relationships. I feel like there are some followers or fans who will talk to you as if they know you personally, and then they make a lot of insinuations, and it can be really rude at times. They'll DM and say things that are completely out of line and just uncomfortable, and it's kind of it's tricky navigating that at times. So I'd say that's the worst part about being a content creator.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that, because at one, you're just creating content. You're like, and this is just content creators in general, not specifically to you, but as content creator myself, you know, you're just kind of sharing what you do, what you love. And I think the community or people in general potentially get engrossed in terms of what you're doing. And like you mentioned, they feel like they know you. We've had, I mean, it could be a good and bad thing. Like, we've had good feedback from our listeners saying it feels like I know you guys, feels like I'm in the room with you guys when you're speaking. However, I think then the other side of the coin is when, you know, they might start, like you say, start sending or abuse, or like sending like really trivial or warranted things to you that you know, yes, I'm giving you content, but that's not an excuse to come and, you know, say these things to me. So
exactly. And it can be so uncomfortable. And then
exactly.
It's tricky to know how to respond to that too, because you don't know if they're gonna make it into a whole thing either. So it's like you don't want to be rude, but you also want to set the boundary and make it clear.
Exactly. And I think that's especially when you're like a new content. I remember when we were first starting, and obviously you want to make all your people, I don't like to call them followers, but supporters, feel like, you know, they're engaged and so on and so forth. Of course, I tried to get, and I did get back to every email or comment on our post. I remember there was one person, I think I forgot to email or reply back, and then they just started getting really antsy and really rude and verbally, and I was just like, that makes it so uncomfortable, because it could have just been something you overlooked at the time, right? Right, exactly. But then as a new like, this was like 3 years ago, so as someone new coming up, you want to try and keep that people, you want to try and keep them engaged and like obviously keep listening to the podcast in this case. But you have to, like your point, you have to come to a point where you have boundaries. If they don't respect those boundaries, then, you know, unfortunately, you have to either lock them off or just, you know, like block them or anything, because it's your mental health.
Yeah, and we definitely do care about the people who support us, like you said, and who will listen to a podcast and who will engage with content and everything. Like, we want to foster that community. It just has to be a healthy one where both parties are benefiting from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What were some of your biggest inspirations? You said you started in COVID. Were there other, like you mentioned, you have a good community around the Massachusetts area. Were there other content creators that you saw that you're like, oh yeah, that I want to kind of like be like that, or so on and so forth? Sorry, go on.
Definitely. So for local content creators, I became good friends with this girl named Creepy Krona on TikTok, and she's a big figure collector. And then there's also this girl, I call her by her real name, I forget her username. It's Rio Etchizens. It's from Prince of Tennis.
Oh, Rio,
Yeah, so she's a big manga collector. And then I was really inspired by the YouTubers. I'm not sure if you're familiar with manga tubers, but they were going out and doing shopping blogs. So then I decided, I was like, oh, I really want to do that because I have so many areas near me. I have like Newbury Comics, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. So I went out and did those voiceover shopping blogs, kind of like what they were doing, and brought it over to TikTok in that way. And it was hard because I wasn't able to connect with them as much since they weren't on TikTok, they were on YouTube.
Sure.
But it was nice getting to connect with them over the years afterwards.
Okay, and I think that's one of the best things, like we're doing now as well. Like, you start your own thing, and or you're about to start, and then you're able to connect with other people in the community as well. Yeah. Like you mentioned, share your love of anime or manga. And with regards to manga, so people listening to this podcast know we actually had a 2-hour debate on anime versus manga.
Oh God.
No, I'm not gonna start that now. But I referenced that just because I am not necessarily a convert, but just more so I understand manga a bit more now. So in the last 2 years, I've read a few mangas. I'm reading One Piece now because it was just taking so long, and I was just like, I need to get up to date. So I'm reading One Piece now, which is great. And I've read another manga. I don't know if you know, Two Mistakes Too Many. It's by the creator of a Dragon, Legend, Dragon Ball Tale. I
think so.
It was like that viral fan-made Dragon Ball Z movie that came out. I'm not sure if you remember that.
No, I'm very far away from the Dragon Ball world,
no
sadly. But I'm surprised I hadn't heard of the first one that you mentioned.
Oh,
just a title
One
that
Piece?
No, not One Piece.
Oh, sorry, Two Mistakes Too Many.
Yeah, I've never heard that title before.
Oh, yeah. It's a really good book. So he created a Dragon Ball Z thing, and then after he wanted to do something different. And it's about the life of Buddha. He based it on the life of Buddha regarding this man's journey. It was really good. So that
sounds good.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm trying to get more into it. It's just finding the time.
Definitely.
Yeah, but what I wanted to ask is, what drew you to manga more than to anime? Is it just because of the speed you can get through it? Or,
I think that there's a difference with my manga reading because, for example, if it's something like a battle shonen series like Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, I would rather watch it as opposed to read it, just because I like seeing the action animated. But when it comes to manga, I feel like I'm mostly gravitating towards slice of life, and then thrillers, things that might not necessarily have anime adaptations. Yeah. Like things by Shuzo Oshimi, Inio Asano, those sort of titles. So it's just a mixture. I guess it depends on the genre with whether I'm watching it or reading it.
I mean, that makes sense because the likes of the JJKs and so on and so forth are a bit more created to watch visually from the fighting aspects of things.
And like Hunter x Hunter, all that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Whereas, to your point, the likes of maybe some shoyu, maybe some slice of life, it's less so much about the action. I'm sure there is action, but more so kind of like the fighting sequences and so on and so forth, and more about the story.
I think it's just sometimes hard for me to follow a fight when it's drawn out. And then you have to flip through and you're kind of like, what's going on? What are they doing with their legs there? And then I just kind of get confused. And it's kind of like I'm just speeding through the fights.
And that wasn't actually going to be my another question. So when you're reading manga, are you focusing on the panels, or because when I kind of like started, I would notice that what I've noticed actually from starting is that I don't really focus on the panels. I'm just reading the words, but I don't know if that's the same with you. Don't get me wrong, they're amazing panels as well, and some I do stop and like appreciate, but I noticed that I'm just reading the speech bubbles.
Yeah, it's a mixture for me. I feel like it just depends on my mood, I guess, and how quickly I'm trying to get through a series. I noticed that when I was reading Monster, I tried to read that as quickly as possible, so I wasn't taking much time to go through and admire the panels the way I probably should have. Whereas when I was reading Berserk, I was just staring at the panels because it's such beautiful art in the Berserk manga that I just like had to stop and like look at the sky that he drew or something like that. And I feel like that one has less words as well. It's more so focused on the art when you're reading Berserk, so it's just easier to take the time and look at the panels.
No, for sure. That's another one I need to get into, but my co-host who has read it said it's a bit dark, so just be ready.
A bit is an understatement.
Okay, so maybe it's definitely one of the darkest. Maybe I'm doing him a disjustice because a lot of things happen to Guts, which he had to take a break.
Guts, Casca, everyone really.
Yeah, I've seen the anime, but he says it doesn't do the manga justice at all.
Oh, no, it doesn't. I know, because that's one that I'd love to see a good anime adaptation for as well, just because, like I was saying about action, I want to see the fights animated, but I just feel like Berserk doesn't do that well as an anime. Maybe someday. I don't know.
It would have to be an 18, he said, if it did become an anime or something, because of how dark it is.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah. And I need to read Monster as well. Again, he said that's really good.
Monster's really good if you're into mystery, thriller. And the problem with me, too, is anytime you ask me for a recommendation, aside from Horimiya, I'm going to say something dark. Because I love dark, sad stories that just, like, kind of leave you with, like, existential dread. That's my thing. So if you're like, oh, what's a good manga? I'm going to be like, this, and it'll just, like, leave you on the floor.
Unfortunately, Soda wasn't able to make it today, but you'd have loved him because he's the same. Junji Ito, Monster.
We connect then, my whole Junji Ito thing, definitely. I love it.
I don't know if you know Gigi Murakami. She's a manga author as well. She creates horror fiction.
Yes, I do. I just started following her, I think, a month or two ago. Okay,
fine, perfect. So she has a manga series out. We've had her on a podcast a few times, and again, they were just vibing on all the dark stuff. I'm just like, that's crazy.
I love that.
In terms of that, has any manga made you cry? In general.
I cry all the time when it comes to media. Like, I'm always crying when I'm watching shows, reading. I cried during Alice in Borderland, Tokyo Babylon. A lot of things, I guess. I'll just be crying. And then if someone's by me and they're like, why are you crying? I'm like, it's so sad. It's the manga. They're like, a manga? The cartoon? Comic? I'm just like, no, it's sad.
The reason why I asked is just because in that debate we had, that heated debate, I was coming on, basically this is what I said. I said manga is the cake and then anime is like the icing, right? So the sound, the visuals, the color, the voice, those are all that you can get in anime that you won't necessarily get in manga. You can create your own like voice in your head and so on and so forth. And I actually find that when I'm reading like One Piece, I can hear their voices now because I associate their voices with. And had I not watched the anime, I wouldn't know what the voices are, right? But I also am very appreciative of the music, in anime. It's very emotive.
I know the original soundtracks. I love them.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll just want, because are you up to date with the One Piece manga?
I'm not up to date, no.
Okay, fine. I won't ruin anything.
I know a lot of the spoilers, though.
Aw, why are people spoiling it for you?
That's just how it is when it comes to One Piece, like anything that's big and ongoing.
Okay, well, there's a saga of Kuma. I won't go into it, but it was a very sad saga, and my co-host said he teared up. I didn't, unfortunately, but I think it'll catch me in the anime, just because
probably
the music, the emotions, I think it will get to me.
Once you hear the voice actors, you're definitely gonna tear up or feel emotional in some way, I think. Just
and the strings come into play. But yeah, we'll see when I haven't caught up with One Piece on the anime for a while now, so I need to catch up. I haven't seen Gear 5 animated.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I've just been reading the manga. Time. So yeah. You mentioned I won't ask you about anime recommendations because you mentioned you already.
Yes.
But manga.
Okay. I'd probably go with a shorter series first because I feel like longer series can be very intimidating. Even if it's only like 15, 20 volumes long, it might be something that's intimidating, especially if you're physically collecting it. You have to buy all those volumes. So maybe start with something that's a one-shot or maybe 1 to 5 volumes and then go from there. If you're reading online, I would definitely recommend Viz titles first, particularly Shonen Jump ones, just because that app is like $2 a month for the subscription, and then you can read so many diverse series. So that could be a really good option as well. And then you can get introduced to some of the ongoing series, like Full Night, for example, is ongoing, and that's a newer series that's really good, in my opinion. So that's a good option if anyone wants to read digitally.
Okay. How do you find, because obviously animes, it's a lot easier because it's trending, people are talking about it, but manga's not the same. So how do you find good mangas? Is it based on the app ratings? So maybe like out of 5, it's got like 4.6, 4.9. Of course, there's my anime list, but how do you specifically, without the hype and trends, find a manga that is good or that you want to read?
If it's not something that's been recommended to me by one of my mutuals or friends, then it's usually just me going to bookstores. Like I'll go to Barnes & Noble or I'll go to a comic store and I kind of just look at the different titles and the covers. I'm like, does this seem interesting? And usually if you look on the back of the manga, usually they say the category, whether it's like a thriller or a romance or something like that. Yeah. So I kind of just go based on that. I take the chance a lot. So sometimes I'll just be buying a volume 1 of something that I've never heard of before, just taking the chance that I think it might be good.
Okay. And if it's not good, do you return it or how do you?
I usually donate or sell my manga, depending.
Okay. Nice. Nice. I've seen you see a lot of books behind you. Are you more physical or digital?
Definitely physical. I can't focus on digital, sadly. I wish, because I would save myself money, first of all. Yeah. And second, I would be able to have access to so many titles that aren't in English yet. But when I'm on my phone or my iPad, I just get so distracted by all the other apps and notifications and stuff. So when I'm reading manga physically, I have to have my phone and electronics like out of sight so that way I can actually focus.
No, that makes sense, actually. You want to be engrossed in the world, escape into it. So you don't want to be pinging or buzzing. Okay, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. What are your top 5 manga at the moment then?
I feel like they have not changed in years, so it's kind of boring.
No, go for it.
Full Moon no Sagashite for the nostalgia. That was my first ever manga. So that one. Pet Shop of Horrors, which is a horror josei series that I absolutely love. It's an anthology series. Tokyo Revengers, even though I don't like the ending, I don't like the last arc, but the rest of it I really, really love. Promised Neverland. We don't talk about the anime.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into it. The manga is amazing. I love the manga. Like all the way through. I just love it. And then my 5th one is Blood on the Tracks by Shuzo Oshimi. But honestly, I love like everything that he's written. He's a horror and thriller manga writer.
So out of those 5, which one would you say, Ed, go and read? You're getting into manga, and I don't mind. Regardless of if it's romance, so long as it's got a good story. Which one would you say out of I should go and read? I'm sure you say go and read all of them, but just give me one.
Yeah. And I know I said no long series, but honestly, The Promised Neverland, it's 20 volumes, but I feel like it's not that wordy. And it's very easily accessible because it's on the Shonen Jump app and then also physicals.
All right, All right, I'll read it. I'll read it. I'll let you know if it's good.
I was about to go into like a whole pitch on why you should read it, but you said you're going to read it, so we'll just
I will. Like, present. Why should I read? I mean, you can, for people listening, you can give a quick summary if you want.
Okay. It's loosely inspired by the Peter Pan but it's very much its own dystopian storyline with orphans who think their life is one way, but then it completely gets flipped upside down. Very much trying to escape this dystopian realm while battling against the monarchy that's been set up. So it's thrilling, it's action, it's friendship. It's really good.
It reminded me of have you ever read Lord of the Flies?
Yes, I have.
Is it similar, or am I just reaching?
I kind of thought that too when I was reading it. I was like, I need to go back and actually watch and read Lord of the Flies, but it's set up in a similar way.
Okay.
I think so.
I enjoyed that, so I'm sure I'll
enjoy
me too. It. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And we have some Discord questions from our Discord. From this one from Agent Smith. What is the best time for you to read manga? Is there a best time?
For me, it's night. I like to read and relax in the evening, usually with some tea when there's not much going on. So that's typically my time.
Fair enough. And we've already answered this. What was the first manga you've read? And then how do you stay... Again, you've already answered how do you stay up to date with the latest manga trends. So all good there.
Oh, sometimes it's also following publishers.
Okay.
So a lot of the publishers like Yen Press, Kodansha, they do announcements pretty often. So I kind of just keep tabs on them and what they're putting out.
Okay. What is this one just came to mind. Does the visuals of a book help in terms of picking out? Like, you're just...
Definitely.
Yeah, okay. From a serendipitous standpoint, it can, yeah?
I think so. I think I judge books by their covers a lot of the time.
We all do, right?
Yeah, definitely. If it's bad artwork, I don't know if I want to read it, honestly.
No, that makes sense. Sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, because it's a manga, it's a comic, essentially. So you're going to be looking at the illustrations the whole time. You don't want to be looking at ugly illustrations, I guess, or ones that are kind of half drawn. I like very visually appealing manga series.
And that was going to be a follow-up. It's like, are there any red or green flags when it comes to like picking manga? But I guess it's primarily just making sure that from a presentation standpoint, that the author or designer making sure that the book cover is amazing to look at. And then I'm sure then once you get into the reading, does the artwork, say the artwork out of scaling of 1 to 10 was like a 4 or 5, but the story was like an 8 or 9. Can that carry for you to like still read, or is it a case where no, I just can't read this anymore?
I think so. I think the art would have to be like a 2, like a 1 or a 2 for me to not read it if it's a really good story. I guess it just depends. But I've read some, because I don't know, I feel like I have a very particular type when it comes to art style, but I've gone out of that comfort zone and still absolutely loved series. So it just depends.
Okay. Going into manga, going to anime now. I know we kind of jumped between the two. Is your favorite? Oh, well, actually, it's not, because it wouldn't be an anime unless it is. But what is your favorite anime at the moment?
My favorite anime has been Hunter x Hunter. I think since 2020, just because I don't know. It's one of those series. Yeah, it's one of those series I can just watch it so many times and never get bored of it. I love all of it, even the Chimera Ant art. I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I get excited every time that I put it back on. So that's my go-to.
You said even the Chimera. Are people giving you stick about liking the Chimera? Why?
I don't know. A lot of people. Have you seen that divide before about it?
Not really. I mean, I've heard some people, but I didn't know it was a big thing.
Yeah,
till like recently.
A lot of people drop it during the Chimera Ant arc.
It's the best art for me, anyway.
To some of us it is. Some of us are like, I don't know about this whole ant thing, and they thought it was really long, because you know how they can drag out some of those episodes. So I feel like half of the people dropped it, half of the people love it, and that made the series for them. So it's very controversial for some reason.
I don't know why. I mean, I loved what was it called, Greed Island as well. I know people didn't like that. I really liked that as well. And then what was the name of the tournament? Oh, I forgot. It's gone out of my head.
Was it just called the tournament arc?
No, it was something
Was that
else.
the Hunter exam one?
No. You know when they go into that big building and everyone's fighting?
Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was a good saga as well. But yeah, I think you're right. It's a shame, obviously, that the author was and is still currently feeling ill. I'm hoping that I keep seeing this every year. Hunter's coming back. Hunter's coming back.
Well, he's still actively writing the chapters. So I forget when the last chapter came out. It was recently. It was in the last couple of months. So it is still ongoing. It's just a very long process because of his condition. So it's not, he's not being pushed for it, which is good, but it's coming out slowly.
I heard his wife is the woman who created Sailor Moon, right?
Yep. They're an iconic couple. I don't know.
Why don't he just look, I'm not feeling that great. Just pass it on to her, or maybe just outsource it. It seems like he's being stubborn.
I think the creator of Nana did the same thing though, because Nana just ended abruptly. It was on hiatus. It's quote unquote on hiatus, but it's never coming back. And I think it's because a lot of mangaka don't want to pass on their series. They'd rather do it themselves or just not have it completed at all, which is sad for us as readers. But I get it. I respect it, but it's also like, please, something.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's their baby. They want to but I also... It would be a shame if you had, as a creator or a writer, the end in mind or a lot to tell, and then you're unable to tell it through some uncertain. I can't even say the word.
Like unforeseeable circumstances.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. I was trying to say unextenuating some circumstances, but yeah.
What did he say?
Unextenuating some.
You stupid.
That thing. But yeah, I'm hoping that he can, or it can be a case where, I know you said he's writing it on a regular basis. Apparently the drawings aren't that great on the manga.
Yeah, I can imagine though, just because of his condition.
Yeah, his condition. We'll see anyway. But yeah, as you mentioned, that is in my top 5. Oh, it was in my top 5? No, it wasn't, but it's in my top. Basically, my top 3 is One Piece, Ghost in the Shell, and then Hajime no Ippo.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was going to ask you what your top 5 were. You can't just say that and then move on.
But I guess if I had to add 2 more, it would be... It's a tough one because Dragon Ball Z, just for the culture. I know people get on the story, but I think for the culture and for what it was to me and so on and so forth, it has a place in there. Then it's between Hunter x Hunter and AOT.
Oh, yeah. Attack on Titan is so good.
My gosh, anime of the decade. It's incredible. The only issue was how long it took to come out and the number of parts it took to come out.
Part 3, part 4, whatever was going on.
Yeah, it was crazy. But as an anime, as a manga, it was incredible. Honestly, incredible.
It was.
So that's kind of like those two kind of chop and change. My top 3 never changed in terms of Hunter, Ghost in the Shell, One Piece, and Hajime no Ippo. But then I guess the rest of the 7, if I'm doing 10, they might go chopping out.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that makes sense, especially depending on your mood and everything.
Yeah. How about you? What is your top 5?
When it comes to anime, I don't know if I really have a top 5 because I'm not too much of an anime person. But I would say Hunter x Hunter, obviously number 1. Nana might be 2 or 3. Attack on Titan's up there as well. Then I'm not so sure. It all moves around. I also really like series that make me sad. So Anohana is a big one that I go back to all the time. I don't know particularly.
No, that's fun.
Maybe Tokyo Ghoul before it turned into Tokyo Ghoul and whatever it turned into. Because I was very invested until that point.
That was a good one as well. I watched Re and I was like, what's going on here? Literally, what is going on?
It made me not even want to read Re. It was that bad. I was like, I don't know if it could get any better.
And just for people listening, I want to clarify the reason why Hunter x Hunter and AOT are a toss up is just because Hunter x Hunter has not finished. I know it's a great, but at least AOT finished. So I know that people might find it blasphemous. I just wanted to clarify myself.
Yeah,
people,
that's
might
valid.
get hate like, oh, how can you even compare the two? But I think given AOT did finish, I think it's a complete piece of work as it is, and I would love to see Hunter x Hunter. I think if Hunter x Hunter finished, it would be my top 3. Or maybe
That's
actually no,
valid.
top 5 for sure. Top 5 for sure, yeah. But yeah. Is there any anime red flags that you would like to bring up? Or hot takes, sorry. Anime hot takes that you have?
Hot takes. Okay, I personally feel like a story can be garbage, like in the sense of the community. You could say, okay, this is horribly written, this isn't that great, but it could still be one of your favorite series, just because, like, I personally like some of those garbage series. When you think of something like a hot gimmick or something where it's like, you know this is bad, but you're just gonna stick with it because it's so entertaining, and it's just so dramatic and over the top that it's kind of just funny.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I'm trying to think of like other titles like that, like
Slime. Have you watched My Life Reincarnated
I
as
haven't
Slime?
yet. I wanted to because I
That
like the
is
figures
good.
a lot.
Yeah, it's we call it junk food. It's you just want more.
Yeah,
it's
and
so
it's like
good.
you can admit, like, okay, this isn't like a masterpiece,
Yeah.
well-written story, but it's just like you like it because it has elements that resonate with you, or it's just like funny, I guess. Yeah.
Slime. I was pleasantly surprised when my co-host said you should watch it. I was like, what is this? But binged it. I was like, oh my gosh, can't wait for it to come back. It's really good. I really enjoyed that. And some people might take offense that I say it's like junk food and that it's not that great, but it is great, but it's not, like you mentioned, it's not a deep story.
It's not something that is like really, really thought-provoking.
It doesn't have layers and stuff like that. Yeah. It's just I'm gonna put it. I just want to be entertained, you know.
Yeah, exactly, and that's so valid. I love series like that.
Yeah,
some of those are my favorites.
No. I wouldn't even say that that's a hot take. I think you're right. I think a lot of people may or may not admit it, but I think, you know, those series do well just because, like you mentioned, they're just a nice, entertaining, easy way to watch anime. So for sure.
Yeah, it's just easy to put on, especially if it's like background noise when you're trying to clean or do something else too.
Yes,
Definitely.
exactly. I saw your I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but yeah.
I don't even know either. It's like Dan, something like that.
I saw that cosplay, amazing. How did you get into cosplay, and is it something that you started creating yourself, or you buying the costumes?
I mostly buy my costumes, but sometimes I'll piece together things. Like, for example, the Granny Psycho from Dan, that was just pieced together from things I had around and everything. I like going to Joann's, Michael's. These are like craft stores, and sometimes getting things to like glue together. But other times I'll just be buying things from like Easy Cosplay and Miss Cosplay. It's super ironic because when I started off on TikTok from 2020 to like 2023, I said I would never get into cosplay. I said I hated it. For me personally, I always liked seeing cosplayers, but I was like, I never want to do that. I don't like the artsy version of it. I don't like getting dressed up and stuff. And then for some reason, I just shifted, like end of last year. I think about a little over a year ago when I was going to Anime NYC, which is a big convention out here in the States. And I was like, oh, I want to dress up for that. So I'm going to cosplay and I'll try that out. Then I made my Nico Robin Thriller Bark cosplay. And after that, I just kind of snowballed into it. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to cosplay now all the time. And that's just how it's been. And I've been cosplaying with a mix of costumes that I buy and then costumes that I kind of piece together.
Yeah. I mean, that is, we've had, again, a few guests who have cosplayed, and they all say, like you mentioned, it's something that they've got into and it's fun and they enjoy it. I have never cosplayed other than having a Naruto band on my head. But
that kind of counts.
It counts, and that's what they say as well. It counts. Levels, you know, everyone can take their stride into it. But yeah, next year, me and my co-host, we promised our listeners. I wish I didn't, but we promised that our next anime convention we're gonna do a cosplay. So I need to think of a good one.
You have to. You have to commit.
I have to commit, yeah. But I like you. I marvel at the people who do it. I've seen some amazing cosplays, as such as yourselves as well. But I just think, and I'm in awe about, because it takes the effort, the time, like you mentioned, sequencing, all that. So I fully respect all cosplayers. It's just, I don't know if I have that synchronization and that flair to
That's
do it.
what I think a lot of the time too. When it comes to my own cosplays, I'm like, I go to these conventions and I admire everyone's cosplay and their outfits. I just think to myself, I'm like, there's no way I can do that. I don't even want to try. But it is fun to do it, I guess, just in my house for fun. And then it's another thing where it comes to the community too. I really like getting to talk to everyone in the cosplay community because everyone's so inviting and it's just mostly based on fun. And that's when you kind of learn, okay, not everyone's doing this as a competition or to look super character accurate. In times, it's like when you're putting your own flair onto a costume, I think that's when it's the best, when it's most enjoyable.
Get that originality. I hear
that.
What is your favorite one you've done so far?
I really like doing my Berserk ones. So I did Rosine from Berserk, which is just a very niche character from the Lost Children arc. That was my favorite just because it was so niche and I didn't expect anyone to know who it was, but I got to like go all out and like turn myself into a bug. And then I really like cosplaying Casca. I love cosplaying Nico Robin. Anytime I do any Nico Robin outfit, that's just when I feel the most confident in cosplay, I think, compared to all my others.
I mean, she's also a scholar and reader as well, so maybe there's the connection there.
Yeah, exactly. We're always reading, so it works out.
Exactly. In terms of a character you relate to, would you say Nico Robin is a character that you can relate to in terms of
I
anime
think so,
manga?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm also pretty studious at times.
At the moment, if you can give me one Pokemon that you would like to have a story made of, which Pokemon would it be?
So, I feel like Charizard's that iconic character where it's just, it ties into Dragon Legend so well because that's always like the mythical creature that everyone's kind of aspiring after. And just imagine with how powerful Charizard would be in that whole evolution. I don't know. I feel like if Charizard were to be, or if Pokemon were to be scary, Charizard would be one that'd be very threatening.
Nisha, we hope you enjoy it. Solo, I'm handing it over to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, close your eyes. It's time for another episode of Solo's Special Stories.